Are you ready to be in the spotlight? Are you ready to share your story with the world? Well, Snails with No Shells is where you need to be. Available on all digital platforms, Facebook and YouTube. Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. Where did we go wrong? We were doing so well. Is it just my imagination? Or is it just insanity for me to constantly care for that deep soul feel? Greetings, beautiful ones. I am Ms. BJ Martin, and this is Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. That's the only rule that I have. All right, now let's get into it. Let me welcome my next guest, such a beautiful woman. Let me get her to the stage. Rochelle Campbell. Greetings, Rochelle. Thank you for coming to my show. I appreciate it.
How are you today?
I am amazing. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Yes. So let's get into it. It says Rochelle A. Campbell is the executive director of Toiletry and Company, Inc. She created this 501c3 community-based organization to serve as an epicenter for personal care items for underserved populations residing in the community in residential programs, i.e. veterans, domestic violence, homeless, and youth, and is strongly committed to providing an opportunity for individuals to meet their essential daily needs for living. Awesome. That's just your intro. We're going to get into that. People, I just want to let you know who we're talking to. All right. So, Rochelle, where were you born and raised?
I was born, raised, reared, school and everything in Prince George's County, Maryland.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And how was that? How was that experience growing up there?
It wasn't a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good. The community was wholesome. I left and went away to school, moved back to Prince George's County. Lived there for like 20 years and recently moved once I got married to Charles County, Maryland, in Waldorf. But everything's been great. I don't have any major stories to tell,
mm-hmm.
but everything was great growing up in Prince George's County.
Mm-hmm. So because I want to know a little bit more about it. How would you describe it?
So growing up, one of the things I remember, and it's so funny because my sister and I laugh about this all the time. We grew up in District Heights, Maryland. And at the time it was a community of mixed, races. We used to have this annual 4th of July parade. And one year my sister and I saw it and I was like, hey, look, I want to become a majorette because they had majorettes. And I was like, I want to become a majorette. I want that baton. I want to become a majorette. When I look back on it, it really wasn't that I wanted to become a majorette. I just like the boots. I like the tassels and I like the boots. And I wanted to march so my tassels can move with my boots. So I never really learned how to turn the baton maybe once or twice, go up in the air and come back, but no turning around. It was the boots for me with that tassel. So it was a really nice community. I still, stay in contact with some of my friends that I lived on the street with. So we just kind of grew up, played outside, came in the house, went to school, came back home, played. So it was just like a really good community to grow up.
Right. You had a normal childhood.
A normal childhood. Right.
That's awesome. So did you ever get a chance to put those boots on?
I did. So I marched in several parades, and let me tell you, the baton ain't moved too far because I was scared it was gonna fall. But my boots and my tassels was moving. My little uniform, I love the uniform.
It's amazing how as kids we see certain things just catch our attention. We just never let it go. Right. It's like, okay, I'm gonna wear those boots. And
those little tassels in front. Yeah, I was able to do that. And my sister and I, we marched a couple of parades. And then, over time, it kind of like waned out where they no longer had any more parades. But I at least had the experience. And at least, was able to twirl a baton, but march with those boots.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Okay. So what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I actually wanted to become a child psychologist. When I was in the 4th grade, it was a young girl who was teased a lot. She had like a bladder problem or something. And like all the kids teased her. And so I felt like I was her friend. I was there to save her, like I was there to talk to her and to help her, to understand like how kids were and don't worry about it. Let's just go play. And it just became like very passionate for me to help people. Okay. And so I actually went to undergrad. I majored in rehabilitation services, in which that encompasses all of aspects of working in different, facilities, working one-on-one with individuals like with disabilities and things of that nature. And then I later on went and got my master's in counseling psychology, in which I actually do work as a clinical therapist today. So not quite the psychologist, but still in the field of helping people.
Helping and healing. Yes. Right. Everyone that I've talked to, have interviewed thus far, they've all contributed to healing or helping someone. That's beautiful. See, people, I don't know what y'all see on TV, but what I know, people are really out here trying to help people out and change their lives and make life better for other people. So don't believe everything you see on TV. Right. Or on social media. Please.
Exactly.
Okay. So what is that like? I mean, because you're not doing exactly what you wanted, but in a way you really are. So what is that like dealing with helping people in that manner?
I guess it still gives me the satisfaction to help me, to allow me to understand that I'm able to give people that glimmer of hope. So I think people believe like when you're a therapist that your job is to change and to like make the changes in a person. The job is for the therapist to bring out the changes that you need to make for yourself. Because once you leave the office or once you leave that setting, you have to do the work. So our goal is to find out what work needs to be done and here are the tools to get that work completed, right? So a lot of times people think, well, no, you're the therapist, you figure it out. I don't know your internals. You can tell me part of your life stories. You can tell me 6 months, or you can tell me 6 years, but you know exactly inside of you what things need to be changed and what and how you can work on these things to make your life better. And so one of the things I do enjoy is when it's like that light bulb moment for people, when you give them some insight. Because a lot of times what I see is like people kind of run away from what's really, and I describe it as the onion, like what's really at that root, until you start really pulling back those layers. And once you get through those layers, then you're like, oh, I didn't know all of this was here, because that other layer and the next layer and the next tier has covered up the bottom. And so just pulling back those layers and helping people to understand, here's really where you need to heal. And here's how you can get to that point of healing. So I like it. I love it, actually.
Yeah, and that's like a major, that's something major. I'm always talking about that because I'm an advocate for mental health, and I'm always talking about doing that inner work and how it's so important, because you gotta know yourself, you gotta love yourself, and it's all about self-care and the self, and just that it's not selfish for wanting to focus on you and on your mental health and getting yourself together. So did you before you started counseling, did you have any inner work that you needed to work on?
So actually, when I was in my master's program,
Mm-hmm.
that was part of one of our classes. Like we had to do in the work.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they actually encouraged us to work with like therapists on our own, but we actually had to work in a group of as students
Mm-hmm.
and like provide that therapeutic support for one another. One, so you can see what your inner working needed to be, and two, so you can be in a role as a therapist and a counselor. And so a lot of times, you know, you get into a profession and people really don't know what that profession entails. And so you just kind of dive all in and you just like, don't even know what they're talking about. So
Right.
it gave you like that insight to say, hey, this is what's actually needed, you know, for me to be in the role of the client and for me to be in a role as a therapist. So it was really helpful. Years later,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure we'll get into that with why I developed Toiletries and Company.
Mm-hmm.
I did, you know, meet with a therapist. I met with a therapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist because I went through a significant situation where I was bullied at work. So.
Oh. Yeah, wow, and I've heard a lot about that. It's somebody I've seen on Instagram talk about that, being bullied at work. And you think about only being a child of being bullied, because I was bullied when I was a kid. I got jumped and all that when I was a kid. But I never knew about the bullying on the job as adults.
It's real. It's real.
As a grown up, I'm thinking like, oh, we've outgrown that kind of stuff. But,
exactly. But the thing about it, and what I realized, the thing about it is, if you don't deal with the person when they're younger, to deal with whatever fears they have, their insecurities, they just grow up to be in a workplace and positions, and they kind of use that as their power, to take the power away from someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So me going through that situation was, you know, of course, traumatic. Like you said, who thought that you would become grown and you had to go to work? Now I did my work, you know, went to school, you know, what the criteria said I had to do. And then you get into a place where you're being bullied or you're being targeted for the skill sets that you have.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's real. Bullying on the job is real.
Yeah.
And we need to start, when people, especially as adults, when we talk about certain things, people need to start really listening and taking this stuff seriously.
Well, I think it's kind of hard. So one of the things I think that helped me tremendously is because my background is in counseling and therapy.
Okay.
So one of the things that people they fail to realize, and I think it's more of an embarrassment or shame when people feel like somebody's telling you like you're not good enough at work, or your work isn't to par, or you know that you're doing a dynamic job, but they're constantly coming after you like for every little thing that you do. And when you're an adult, it's like, who do you trust and who do you talk to? So even when I had to go to the therapist, the psychologist, and the psychiatrist, they were looking at me like, so what do you mean? So what did you do? And to try to explain to them, like, what do you mean what I did? I said, I'm the victim here. I was the one who was targeted. I was the one who was not given a fair chance to like speak whatever I needed to talk about. And so I had to actually educate those that I did come in contact with what it looked like to be bullied in the workplace. The psychologist pretty much, just does some brief counseling and writes reports. And so in order for her to write her report, she still was puzzled. She was literally puzzled. And I had to explain to her, I said, first of all, I don't just like come up with like, hey, I've been bullied at work. Who wants to walk around and have that title? Right. So what I did is I showed her all of my past employee evaluations. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I had previous ones from like previous jobs. They all had the same type of, like you start off your employee evaluation. And it says, this person is, capable of doing the job. They do this, they do that, their personality, all of those like attributes that you have in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Every last one said the exact same thing, except the current one. Nobody wants to work with her. She's not a team player.
Right.
She doesn't do this. And so then she put her, oh, I guess you're right. There is something wrong with this. So it comes to the point as, I guess, as an adult, people don't really know how to tackle it, because it's not something that just starts off like, hey, I'm gonna bother you. It's psychological. Mm-hmm. And so it comes in like little dosages of, you're not good enough, you didn't do this right. And they also flood you with so much work to make you not do right. And so you're trying to you're trying to do your job, you're trying to focus, and then they're constantly giving you different work, and then you're constantly answering to different people. So eventually, as any human, you would start to slip, or you would start to get off of your normal status of being a great employee. And that's what their focus is. Their focus is to psychologically minimize all of your skills, your aptitudes and abilities, to make them look like, oh no, you can't do your job.
Wow. That's deep, because all that energy you putting into all that negativity and that type of mindset, that sounds tiring.
It is very tiring. An ironic thing is, the person who starts the bullying. So I looked at it when I went through my situation at work. I looked at it was like a puppeteer. And so the puppeteer kind of had different people deployed to do whatever their task was. So all the puppets didn't know that this was the puppeteer was doing.
Okay.
So I would have this manager do this manager do this manager, but they never knew that 6 people were giving me directions every day. They never knew that 6 people were targeting me every day, because the puppeteer was so strategic and making sure like, oh no, I'm just asking you to do this. But when it all unraveled, it was so many people giving me so many work tasks, so many directions, so many different personalities, that when it did fall, it was almost like, haha, I knew you weren't good. I knew you weren't going to make it. So it just became to the point. Now, the one good thing, like I said, because my background was in therapy and I kind of knew what was going on, I immediately went to a therapist, immediately, and talked through, what was going on and how I was going to handle it. And so the first thing I did was I retreated. I need a sabbatical.
Right.
Went to my doctor. I need some time off. That way it allowed for the bully, the puppeteers, and everybody else that was in that whole scenario to lose their power. Because now I'm no longer there. And it's not easy just to pick up, to find fault in like somebody else. Like they strategically had to plan this, right?
Right.
So what I realized during that time when I was at home, I said, God, something must be very important about my life for all of these managers making mid or over 6 figures to want to bother me.
Right.
I didn't think I was that important, but obviously somebody thought I was that important.
Right.
And so during that time frame, when I realized I was at home and, my leave had started running out, I ended up having to get an attorney to like fight for my job and, just my credibility. And one of the things that people were asking, you need help with your rent, you need help with, your groceries or gas or your car note, but nobody ever asked me if I needed help with toiletries. And so,
here we go.
Just having a relationship with God, he said, get yourself off your mind and help somebody else. Yeah. And that's what I started doing, helping people with toiletry items. So I would ask people who were traveling, or I would just go to companies and ask if I can get toiletry items. And then I would just connect to the community or just different organizations and just started donating toiletry items.
Wow. What a story. She's like, oh, my childhood was but like as an adult, just like your story begins.
Right.
Right. And so That's interesting too.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen it like from that side. Usually it starts something in childhood, but as an adult, you still have to go through something to kind of I call it, some people have like, like spiritual awakenings or have to go within and get closer to God.
Right.
You have to go through something to get there. To the point where you don't have a choice but to turn to God and to go within because you have nowhere else to go, and I believe that we're put in situations like that. And sometimes some stay in the cycle longer, than others. I think it depends on, what you need to learn or what you need to experience, or maybe even how hard-headed you are.
How many times you have to take the test?
Right. Because you're going to pass this test, right? You're going to take it and we're going to knock you upside your head until you get it, So I truly believe that. And that's amazing because, like you said, nobody thinks about toiletry items. Wow. But the blessing was too that people at least were asking, did you need help with this and that?
Right. So family and friends were asking. Yeah. And then I realized, I was like, so how about if I was homeless and didn't have sanitary napkins or soap or toothpaste or toothbrushes or couldn't wash my hair or deodorant? And so although everything else was like so beneficial, and I could probably go, if I had gotten to, despair, I can go to social services and ask for some type of support or rental assistance or food banks. But there's very far few in between places, unless they accompany, your food or things like that. Somebody who just does toiletries, and that's all our organization does. We don't necessarily do food and clothes, and we just mainly focus on toiletries because it is such a great need. And especially during a pandemic, just educating people on the importance of not spreading diseases and washing your hands. And I mean, that's something we already knew, but it just heightened it during the pandemic. And so, just giving people that educational personal health and hygiene and staying, clean and safe everyday activities. And unfortunately, because we know the homeless population doesn't always have those items, then it's even more important, to pass them out to the community.
Right. So do you just offer them just to homeless people, or do you offer them just to the community period, or do you have to have make a certain amount of money? How does that work with your company?
So we just offer, because I realize, just like food, you need toiletries. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of them things that you can say, oh, well, you really don't need those Jordan tennis shoes. But between food and toiletries, it's a basic, essential, daily, every day you need, soap. Even if you skip a day, excuse me, the next day you're going to need that soap. So we kind of focus on the community at large. And I even tell people sometimes, even when you work, after you pay your bills and your food, sometimes you need laundry detergent or help getting soap or the cost of sanitary napkins. And I don't really think people put insight into how much this stuff costs. You know what I mean? Like, it costs, just for a girl to get a 30 pack of sanitary napkins. So we focus on the community at large. We focus on homeless. We focus on shelters like domestic violence. We focus on youth facilities. So we just focus on people, period. So it's not an income driven type of program.
Okay. Wow, that's beautiful. And again, your company, they're giving out toiletries, providing for the community, making the community better, helping and talking about just being clean and your health, and it's you're still healing and helping in everything that you do. Everything you put your hands on, you're healing and helping. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Wow. So, and how long have you been running the company, the toiletry?
So we started in 2015. Okay. That's when I received my 501c3. Was in October 2015. And we've been, going ever since. And to me, it's a blessing just to see when people, just genuinely say thank you. Yes. It's not a whole, pomp and circumstance. It's not like a whole food basket, but just to know that we've been able to provide some soap, some, laundry detergent, a washcloth, toothpaste, toothbrush, And it might not be for a month. It could be a 5-day supply, but that was 5 days that you didn't have before. And it's just really a blessing for us to be able to give to those in need.
Okay, so can anybody just donate to the company, or is there a certain way that they have to, certain channel they have to go through to be able to give you any products? How does that work?
So we take donations. We haven't really done any outreaches because of the pandemic, but anybody can donate on our website or through like our PayPal or Cash App. And a lot of times I think people think it's going to take, of course, I would want $100 million, but just to help one person is $10. Just for me to help one person, supply the products is $10. I work with a lot of companies that provide like assistance for like bulk items. Okay. And so for me to purchase the items, it gets very costly depending on what the items are. But if one person or two people or three people or four people, just donate $10, I can help those 4 people, with products at least for a week. So yeah, we take donations year round. Okay.
All right. Well, that's beautiful. Beautiful story. And like I said, how something, tragic happened, and that's usually how it works. Tragic. Right. And to some people, and that's why I'm like, let's not judge people's experiences, because the bullying on the job, somebody may be like, oh, that's nothing. No. That was your experience. Everybody has their experiences. Let's not judge our experiences. We went through what we had to go through to get to where we are. Right. To make this to make this world a better place. Right. Right. So yes, and I appreciate you sharing your story with me.
Oh no.
And everybody else now. Everybody knows. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So even though I have the ticker going on at the bottom, go ahead and share your information, how we can contact you and all that good stuff.
Okay. So our website is www.toiletryandco, that's just co.org. PayPal is Toiletry and Company Inc. And Cash App is the $ Love Soap.
Okay. All right, awesome. And before we go, just what would be one piece of advice or maybe a quote or encouraging word, whatever that you would like to leave with the audience?
So one of the things that I always look to, and this is just in general in life, is a clean heart develops a clean mind. So in order to have a clean, fresh mind, your heart has to be clean. And that means that, you don't hold grudges, you don't hold things against people, you don't judge people, you don't look at people because they've been down this walk and you haven't. And so with your heart being clean and everything that comes out moving forward or, moving towards your future is clean, because your mind is set free from any like harsh things that happened in the past or any grudges that you want to hold. So a clean heart develops a clean mind.
Beautifully said. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Rochelle. I love your story. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for being on the podcast. And thank you. I always say thank you to the Own It Magazine platform.
Yes, the Own It Magazine platform, which has helped me to like really get my creative juices flowing, things that I probably typically would not have done until I went through this experience. And so it has given me so much lift to be able to share with so many more people about, using your skills, aptitude, and talent. And like you said, once God awakens those things in you, once you sit still and rest on it, He's going to give it to you. And I had to go through that valley and that peak on that time to get those, to get what my creative flow was.
And now you write, you're contributing writer.
Yeah,
to the Own It Magazine. Go ahead. You about to say something else. I was about
to say, and I did an anthology, the anthology Women Inspiring Nations, Volume 3.
Yeah.
So I was.
So you was holding out.
Yeah,
you were holding out on me. Don't be holding out.
I wrote a chapter in that book. It was an anthology of women. That was 2 years ago, actually. Awesome. And it has really been a blessing just to get my story written on paper, just to leave a legacy about, how you can go through a hard time and come out on the other end.
Yes. And I love that too. Anthologies, I say they are the way to go, because I'm here, now doing this because of an anthology. During the journey. With Vanessa Blackwell she was a visionary. I was a part of that. And now here I am with Own It magazine. So, you just never know who you're going to meet, who's doing what, So I'm definitely for anthologies, but don't be holding out on me no more.
Yes, and I truly thank Marissa. She is just such a blessing and such a sweetheart, and her energy. If I could have her energy at least 1 hour a day, I would probably be amazing. But I could probably do 30 minutes in a day. I don't know where she gets her energy from, but she is such a wonderful person, and so full of energy, and just gives you like that oomph just to do better and just to keep moving. So I really appreciate her.
She's amazing. I appreciate her too. Yeah. All right. Well, that is our time. Again, thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you on my show. And before I go, I would just like to say, remember, just like the sun, you are necessary. I love y'all.